here on MPT.
We're going to be in Maryland on Sunday, May 6th at the Audubon Naturalist Annual Fair. It's at the beautiful Wood End Mansion in Chevy Chase.
We'll give you lots of great gardening tips to help you attract more birds to your property.
And we'll be there all afternoon to greet you.
We can't wait to see you there.
Call 301-652-9188.
Stokes Birds at Home is made possible in part on MPT by your Maryland, Virginia Wild Bird Centers, catering to those who want to bring birds and other wildlife into their yards. Our selection of bird-related items and knowledge serve all your birding needs.
Hi, I'm Lillian.
And I'm Don Stokes. Welcome to Stokes Birds at Home.
Orioles are magnificent black and orange birds. There are about 8 species found across North America. Today we're devoting our entire episode to these wonderful birds.
First, we're going to show you how to attract them with feeders and fruit, and then how to improve your property so that it's irresistible to Orioles.
Then we'll take a closer look at Orioles' life history and behavior and see how they make those fascinating nests.
We'll help you learn how to identify the most common species and give you some clues for identifying males and females.
Then we'll take time out to watch the beautiful hooded oriole drink nectar from flowers.
So join us for Stokes Birds at Home.
Major funding for Stokes Birds at Home is provided by
Lowe's Home Improvement Warehouse. Lowe's Lawn and Garden, improving home improvement.
Additional funding is provided by Birders World magazine, where birding adventures begin, featuring full-color photography, expert birding tips, and birding hotspots.
Swift Instruments, binoculars designed with birders in mind.
Droll Yankees, makers of bird feeders engineered with a lifetime warranty. And by Mrs. E.K. von Mertens.
Oranges for the Orioles. You know, everyone wants to attract these flame-colored birds, and it's pretty easy to do, no matter where you are in the United States, if you put out the right food and feeders and you create a good habitat for Orioles on your property. There are approximately 8 species of Orioles found in North America. The most common of these are, in the east, there's the brilliant orange Baltimore Oriole. In addition, there's the rust-colored orchard Oriole. In the west, the most widespread species of Oriole is the Bullock's Oriole. The Scott's Oriole and the hooded Oriole are found in California and the Southwest. Orioles eat 3 main kinds of food. They eat nectar, they eat insects, and they eat fruit. Here are some wonderful nectar feeders. This egg-shaped feeders have perches that Orioles of different sizes can land on because they vary somewhat in size from about 7 inches to 10 inches. The Orioles land here or they can land there, and they drink the nectar right out of that little portal there. Another feature of this feeder is that it has a little moat in the top. Pour some clear water, not nectar solution, in this little moat like that, and ants can crawl down the string, but ants don't swim, so they won't cross this barrier and climb down to get the nectar, which is reserved for the Orioles. You can hang your feeders out near shrubbery where Orioles come. People want to know when to put their Oriole feeders out. If you live in the southern part of the country, have the feeders up by April 1st. If you live in the northern half of the country, have the feeders up by May 1st. Here's another feeder with a little ingenious device here. These are perch-activated bee guards because bees will like to come to this solution. So look at this. There's a little hole here that's too small for a bee to get into, but hummingbirds, who also like these nectar feeders and will sometimes come to Oriole feeders, can hover and reach their long tongues through the hole to get the nectar. When a heavier Oriole lands on this feeder, look what happens. The little bee guard is pulled down and the Oriole has access to the larger hole, which accommodates the long bill of the Oriole. That's just perfect for Orioles. I love this. It even looks like a little orange right there. This is a multi-purpose feeder. You can put nectar in it. The nectar solution for Orioles is 1 part sugar to 4 parts water. You can boil it for about a minute and then cool it. Some people make a nectar solution that's 1 part sugar to 5 or 6 parts water. Put the top on. Another neat trick about this feeder is that you can offer oranges on this feeder. Now remember how I said Orioles absolutely love oranges, this big luscious fruit. So what I do is I cut an orange in half. I'm going to make the bottom flat, so I'm going to put a little flat area there, and I'm going to poke a little hole, because what I'm going to do is put the handle right through the orange like that. Look, isn't that neat? And then you screw it on. So it's going to hold the orange right there. The Orioles are going to love this. So we've got the nectar, we have the orange. And the third thing, see these little wells right there? Well, look at this. Yummy grape jelly. Remember how I said they like fruit? Well, they really love jelly, maybe because it's fruit and sugar all in one. So I'm going to fill the little wells with grape jelly. I have a friend who says Orioles come all summer. The grape jelly she puts out. You know, you can also offer this jelly in a container like this, or a little metal container, maybe an old yogurt container, you know, that you empty and cut it down to size. A lot of people even put grape jelly in orange halves like that. It's a neat trick. So 3-in-1 feeder, nectar, oranges, and jelly. What Oriole could resist? A great other way to offer oranges is in platforms, you know, on your deck railing, maybe even lying on the ground if Orioles come down to bushes or near a bird bath. But one of the ways I offer oranges on trees is to put a nail in the tree and just nail the orange up to the tree. You can pick a horizontal branch or a tree trunk. In addition to oranges and feeders, Orioles also sometimes come to suet. Manufacturers now make orange-flavored suet cakes. Would you believe that? You can offer them in this cage like that. Another wonderful use of a suet cage is to offer nesting material for Orioles. You can buy some nesting material like this at wild bird stores, or I like to actually cut some myself. You take some string, natural colored string or green string, or some yarn people use like this, cut it in lengths about 8 to 10 inches. Remember, Orioles make those wonderful long hanging nests, and they use a lot of plant fibers in the nest. Then you can stuff some of the nesting material in a suet holder like this. That's pretty red string. They'd like that. This is great stuff here too, this natural kind of fibers. Just like that, hang it from the trees. They'll come over and they'll pick out some nesting material and they'll make their nest. Now, speaking of nesting, when Orioles nest, they really need a lot of protein to feed to the young. This is when they often turn away from the sugar water and the oranges and things like that and go for protein in the form of insects. The way you can offer protein is to buy some mealworms. Mealworms come from the pet store, or you can get them mail order, or wild bird stores carry these. See these little things? This is the larva of a beetle. You can buy them in containers and keep them in your refrigerator for up to about 3 months. You put them out like this. Now, don't be squeamish about mealworms. They're not yucky, they're not slimy. There's hard and smooth to pick up. Dump them out like this. The way I like to offer mealworms is in a container like this. Any high wall container will do, but what I do is I put them out in a little feeder like this. Has nice high sides. Load them up. You know, amazing study done on Bullock's Orioles found that 79% of their food during nesting was in fact insects. So this is a great help to the Orioles. Lots of mealworms in the feeder. And just hang that up in the tree too. So there you have it. Every kind of food an Oriole would want. We have oranges, we have grape jelly, we have nectar, we have suet, and we have nesting material. Everything an Oriole could want except one really important thing, and that's habitat. It's not enough to offer just food. You have to create good Oriole habitat. So let's go to Don and he'll tell you how.
There are 3 ways to attract Orioles to your property. Provide nesting habitats, wild nesting materials, and wild foods. Now in the wild, Orioles eat 3 types of food. They eat nectar from flowers, they eat insects, and they eat fruits. And this little crabapple tree here actually provides several of those foods. Early in spring, this was covered with beautiful white apple blossoms, and we had Orioles coming down and drinking the nectar from the apple blossoms. They do this with a lot of orchard trees. So if you have this and blossoms, you can get Orioles in early spring. You can see here that the fruits are starting to develop now in midsummer. When these ripen, Orioles will also eat these. They eat a wide variety of fruits. And you know, when they eat small fruits, it's kind of interesting. They tend to take a little bit of the fruit and eat it a little bit at a time. In addition to fruit and nectar, Orioles also eat insects. And the main insects they eat are caterpillars, grasshoppers, and beetles. Now right over here, we have some wonderful prime Oriole food. You may look at these and say, well, that looks like tent caterpillar, but in fact, this is made by the fall webworm. Fall webworms build their webby nest around the leaves that they eat, and they come out in late summer and fall. Tent caterpillars build their webby nest in the crotches of trees in spring, and they leave the webby nest to go out and eat the leaves and come back. Orioles eat both tent caterpillars and fall webworms, so they're a wonderful bird to have around if you want to control pests. We even have them feeding their young Japanese beetles. Now, the nests of Orioles are another very interesting thing. This is a nest that fell off a tree last winter on our property, so it was used the year before by an Oriole. Look at this structure. It's a long, pendulous nest, has a cup sort of in the center, and look at the fibers. Aren't they strange? They're very strong. Oriole nests, in fact, stay up in trees, can stay up there for several years, and sometimes we go around in winter and look around our property and see, are there any Oriole nests there? Because you may not even know they're breeding there, but you can see the nest and say, aha, they are here after all. Now, when I look at a nest like this, I wonder, what are these materials and where does the bird find them? Well, here's the answer. This is a little plant called dogbane. It's a relative of milkweed, and either milkweed or dogbane is good for Orioles. It has tiny inconspicuous flowers and opposite leaves. But the key to this plant is, in fact, the winter-dried stem. Look at this. This is an old stalk after the plant has died, and look at the fibers on it. These long fibers peel like that, and this is what the Oriole comes. If we break it here, we can get some more. It comes off like that. So that, in fact, that whole nest is made from the fibers of dogbane or milkweed. In addition, Orioles in the east use fine grasses, especially the orchard Oriole, and they sometimes use grape bark. If you're in the west, they use slightly different materials. They also use grasses, fine grasses, but they use the stems and the fibers from flax and the fibers from palm and yucca. Now let's go see what makes a good Oriole habitat. Most Orioles prefer to nest in tall trees at the tips of branches that overhang open spaces. So this can be at the edge of a woods, the edge of your yard, along a road, or along a stream. Now in the past, the trees that Orioles preferred most in the east were the beautiful American elms that lined Midwestern streets. But the Dutch elm disease took away most of those trees. So now Orioles are resourceful and they're using a wide variety of plants. Up here we've got a maple, and they love to nest at the tips of maple. And over here there's a birch, and at the upper branches of this they'd like to nest at the tips of these branches as well. Now in the west, the orioles live in slightly different trees. They can nest in cottonwoods and sycamores along waterways, and they also nest in yucca plants and palm trees. So if you add feeders and all the wild things that can enhance your habitat, you're going to get orioles on your property.
Our most common orioles are neotropical migrants.
That means they leave the United States and Canada in late summer and spend the fall and winter in Central and South America.
Now it's time for our mystery bird quiz. Don will give you the first clues.
Okay, the male and female of this species are very different colors, but the male in its first year looks a lot like the female.
Think about that, and while you're thinking, let's take a closer look at the life history and behavior of the Baltimore oriole. Orioles are among our most colorful North American birds, and their behavior is fascinating. Let's take a closer look at the life history of the Baltimore oriole, our North American oriole with the most widespread range. In spring, males return from their wintering grounds in Central and South America. Males arrive a few days ahead of females and immediately start singing to advertise and defend territories. Baltimore oriole's song is a series of loud whistles, but each individual male has his own distinct rendition. Males often countersing with neighboring males. First one sings, and then the other answers. Then the first sings again, and so on. As soon as females arrive and choose a mate, they start to construct the beautiful hanging nest that's a real architectural feat. In the beginning stages, the female collects long strands of plant material and attaches them to the tip of a branch. At this stage, the nest just looks like some hanging threads.
In the next stage, she begins to weave the loose ends of the strands together by pulling outer strands in. In the building of this nest, the male temporarily got in the nest and even was aggressive to the female for a moment. But his efforts were fairly ineffectual, since male orioles rarely build nests. Eventually, the female returned and continued construction. At the later stages, the nest is well formed, but the female continues to weave fibers to make it stronger. Watch how she pokes her bill through the wall of the nest to grab strands from the outside and then draw them back in. It's just random movements, but it ends up making a very safe structure for the young. In the end, she collects downy fibers, like this dandelion fluff, and places it in the bottom of the nest to make a soft interior cup for the eggs and the nestlings.
After incubating the eggs for 12 to 14 days, both male and female collect food and bring it to the nest. Here's the male arriving with food and reaching down to give it to the nestlings. And the female shows up at the same time. When the young leave the nest, they're a little clueless about where to find food. Luckily, their parents still feed them for another week or so as they learn to find food on their own. Orioles eat a wide variety of foods in the wild. In early spring, they may lick nectar from apple blossoms and the flowers of other fruit trees. This female is looking for caterpillars, a staple of orioles throughout the summer.
This adult male has just caught a Japanese beetle and is tearing off the wings and feet before taking it to one of its fledglings. Orioles also come to feeders. This first-year male is eating grape jelly. And this adult female is eating the pulp from an orange half. These are just a few of the many fascinating behaviors of orioles. Look for orioles around you in spring and summer and take some time to watch their behavior. You'll have a great time.
Is that bird named after the baseball team?
No, it's not. It's actually named after Lord Baltimore, who ruled the colony of Maryland in the 1600s.
That's really interesting. I like knowing the reasons behind birds' names. And speaking of bird names, have you guessed the mystery bird yet? Well, here are the next two clues.
The next clues are, this bird is named for where it nests, and it often nests in loose colonies.
What's a loose colony? Is that a colony without any morals?
No. A loose colony. It's just a small group of birds living in the same area.
Now, next on the docket, we're going to learn to identify the most common Orioles.
Identifying Orioles is not hard if you're just looking at adult males, because they often have distinctive patterns of black on their heads. For example, here's an adult male hooded Oriole, recognized by his orange head and black face and throat. He also has a relatively long tail and a long, thin, slightly down-curved bill. Here's another western species called a Bullock's Oriole. The male has a black cap and a thin black line through his eye. Also look for the broad white patch on his wing, which is also distinctive. The male orchard Oriole is an entirely different color from our other Orioles. His body is a deep chestnut, and his head and back are all black. The orchard Oriole is our smallest North American Oriole. The male Baltimore Oriole is actually similar in overall pattern to the orchard Oriole, with black on his head and back, but his body is bright orange.
Female Orioles can be more difficult to distinguish because they generally lack the distinctive black patterns on their heads. For example, here's the female Baltimore Oriole. She's pretty much uniform orange with a dark back and wings. This female orchard Oriole is similar, but greenish yellow and more evenly colored. Confusing matters is the fact that immature males in their first year lack the full patterns they will have as adults at 2 years old. In their first year, they often look more like the adult females of their species. Here's an immature male Baltimore Oriole in his first summer. The only hint of his adult male plumage is the black feathers with white edges that occur on part of his wings, a small sign of what is to come. This immature male orchard Oriole has none of the chestnut and black of the adult male. His body color is more like that of the adult female. The black on his face and throat is similar to an adult male hooded Oriole. As you can see, Orioles have a lot of different plumages, which makes them a challenge to identify. But each plumage in each species is still very colorful, adding a lot of beauty to North American bird life.
Hooded Orioles are gorgeous birds of California and the Southwest. They have relatively long, thin, down-curved bills that are perfect for reaching into flowers to sip the nectar. Take a moment to watch this adult male feed on the nectar from a plant called red-hot poker. That was such a beautiful bird, and against those red-hot poker flowers, it was wonderful.
I know, I could have watched it a lot longer. But it's time to reveal who the mystery bird is. But first, let's review the clues. The adult male and female look quite different, but the first-year male looks a lot like the female. This bird is named for where it nests, and it often nests in loose colonies. And the answer is...
Do you think it's an Oriole? Well, you're right. It's the orchard Oriole. The orchard Oriole breeds in the Midwest and East and then flies to Central and South America for the winter. Recently, we watched orchard Orioles in early spring on the west coast of Florida. These birds had just flown across the Gulf of Mexico from the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. They were tired and hungry and feeding on the fruits of a mulberry tree to help build up their strength and energy reserves before continuing their migration north. Watch how this adult male orchard Oriole eats mulberry fruits. He just takes little bits at a time and swallows them. Many other birds would be more inclined to eat the whole fruit in one gulp.
In the first year of their life, male orchard orioles look entirely different. He keeps this plumage through his first breeding season and then, in fall, molts into the adult male plumage. This female orchard oriole is greenish yellow except for her back, which is brownish gray. Her face and throat are the same color as her body and don't have the black of the immature male. She might be confused with female Baltimore or Bullock's orioles, but she's smaller overall and has a relatively large head in relation to her body size. Her bill is also thin and slightly down-curved. At other times of year, orchard orioles may eat insects gathered from wildflowers or from grasses and weeds. Occasionally, they even come to hummingbird feeders. Look for this beautiful bird in your neighborhood and see if you can spot all its different plumages.
You know, that mystery bird, the orchard oriole, is one of my favorites. I love the deep, dark colors of the male.
It's really beautiful, isn't it? Well, next time we're going to give you the scoop on bird seed and tell you which kinds of seed attract which kinds of birds.
Then we're going to learn about the amazing brown pelican, a fisherman par excellence. You gotta love that bird.
I sure do. Then it's off to Arizona for a special birding trip. There are really unusual species there.
Then we're going to take time out to watch a gorgeous swallow-tailed kite as it soars about in the air.
So come back next time for Stokes Birds at Home.
Do you have questions about birds? Visit Don and Lillian at stokesbirdsathome.com for answers, tips, and resources. To order companion products for Stokes Birds at Home, call 1-800-338-8440. The 450-page Stokes Field Guide to Birds includes more than 900 color photographs with color tab indexes to make bird identification easy. Also available is a multi-CD collection, the Stokes Field Guide to Bird Songs. Prices include shipping and handling. Order by calling 1-800-338-8440. Credit cards are accepted.